Opening introductions. I think we all know each other. I don't see anybody online that we all know Chandra. So we'll go with that. So before we get started, the only discussion topic we have is the radio work group. I wanted to reiterate a couple of things. They've allotted 2 hours for this meeting, so we're done at 15:30. If we have to have another meeting, we can. There's no vote. This is just pure discussion. And I would ask you guys, please raise your hand if you want to be called upon, only because the folks in virtual land want to be able to hear. And if we're having 5 people talking, they can't quite understand. So we'll make it a pretty easy going, and just please raise your hand. I'll call on you, and then you can ask your question or make your statement. So with that, Sheriff Pixel.
All right, well, thank you, Chief Smith. I appreciate it. First, Jeremy, do you want to say anything off the get-go about this?
Well, just to say up front that this is a conversation that has grown out of really just the discussion to see what this looks like for the future of the radio system. I, of course, can't speak on behalf of the board without approval to do so. So I'm really here just kind of to collect information and have a discussion as we go forth with where this may go. So though I do have some concerns that I can speak to, I also can't speak on behalf of the board. There has not been a vote to discuss this any further than that. So as for right now, I'm here really just to kind of collect notes, answer questions if they arise, so that I can start working on what this looks like to present to my board should we get to that point. So,
All right. So from my perspective, this was kind of born out of trying to move this process forward. It seems like we moved 2 steps forward, we moved 3 steps back a lot of times. And it seems to be due to a lot of infighting, right? So Lieutenant Treat and I put Mr. Hypes and Mr. Miller in a room, and we're like, let's talk about how we can move forward as a group and see what this would look like. And one thing they've both him and Mr. Miller talked about individually to me, separate of each other, was the potential of a user group owned radio system. What that would mean is CCOM would be in charge of CCOM, and us as a user group would be in charge of our radio system. We would share costs. Part of their operations levy would go to continue going to the radio system. All the financial would be worked out on the back end. This is kind of a high level kind of look. If you guys got the IGA I gave to most of you guys, that's just a very basic overview. There's no legal speak in there. This is just something to get the conversation going between Jeremy and I and bring you guys kind of into the loop. So from there, I'm willing to answer questions or.
and just for me to add some context to this as well, from all the agencies I've worked for, we've always had some form of a radio group that maintains the system, and it's all maintained by all the users. And there is some form of voting body in place that does that based on that contract. Everybody shares the cost of the system, which I know is a huge ask for most of the agencies in this county right now. But it is definitely a plan that could help maintain the system over long term. One of the positives that jumps out at me is, should we go out for a bond for replacement of the system, it would be a lot easier as all of us as one entity through a work group or a radio group to go out for that bond. Now, are we at that point now? Not necessarily, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be in the future. So as from my standpoint, there is definitely some positive to it, but this also means that, we already have the advisory committee, which we have here, which essentially is kind of the same structure. Really all it does is break down the ownership of said radio system to whoever that is owning it, and their requirement to maintain and operate the system. So currently with our advisory board, you guys all have a say, and I know historically there's been some questions about how much this group actually has. But as an advisory committee and the policy set we're in, you guys are to make advice to me to take to my board for repairs, replacement, and so on and so forth. So that being said, theoretically, the structure already exists under the district. So we're essentially creating, in my opinion, we would be creating a similar type structure under whatever this new organization looks like, whether it be another individual agency in the county, whether it be a work group of all the owners, or whether it stays where it is. We have this system. Now, we all know that our current position with this system is the system needs updating. That's no doubts, no questions there. We all agree on that. What that looks like and how that's going to happen is definitely a much bigger conversation. I'm in the process of trying to stabilize it and make it last for as long as it can last, get as much life as we can out of it, so that we as a group can move forward trying to figure out what that solution, long-term solution is going to look like. But my budget alone is not going to cover replacement of said radio system. So that is just something to think about going forth. Something else that has arisen in the last 2 days that I want to make you guys all aware of is we met with Senator Merkley's office yesterday, had an early conversation about the community improvement plan, the CIP. Clatsop County just got awarded, I think it was 1.3 million through this application process last year to go towards their radio system. If I turn in that application by the end of the month, which is the intention is to do so, once those wheels are started, if we change entities, that application goes away. This is the potential for us to get up to $5 million in earmarked funds towards a radio replacement. So if we decide to take this route, we need to be real thoughtful of what this looks like, because we could be, I mean, most likely next year there will be another CIP that a work group or whoever the new owner would be can go forward for that same funding. But as I'm turning in the application by the end of the month to start that process, I would hate to start that process, get the wheels going, and then have to pump the brakes and say, sorry, we don't own the system anymore. It now belongs to somebody else. And we're going to have to restart that process next year. So just another side comment that just happened yesterday, quite literally. So I just wanted to make that known as well for everybody as part of this discussion. So
From my vantage point, the reason I'm pushing this forward is because historically, and this is not against Jeremy, he just started, but historically, the board has just kicked this can down the curb year after year after year. Their asses aren't the ones that's in the hot seat when these radio systems fail. It's ours. So I think we would have more of an onus as a public safety group in ensuring the system is fixed and properly running. I believe the city of Clatskanie, my numbers may be a little off to this, recently got a $20 or $25 million loan to upgrade their sewer system. Yeah? And I think they're paying $900 and some thousand a month to a year, whatever it is, to pay that back, which is potentially within something that we could look at as a user group down the road. Like I said, I'm tired of this can get kicked down the curb, and I'm just trying to find a way that we can move forward in a positive direction together.
Chief Brody?
Jeremy, right now you have a significant maintenance and project underway that just finished up here just today for today's work. Can you tell the user board exactly what the onus is behind it, what was going to be, what you think will come out of it, and what yours plan that you present to the board for the results you see from this?
So the last day of work, planned work, is Tuesday of next week. That should be the final day of the large poll of this. We do have some receive sites that we still need to get out to do. That's a much smaller impact, so that will be included in this as well. But in the end result, I'm supposed to have a list of all the things that are broken, all the things that are dying, or all the things that are still operating at some efficiency out of all the sites. This report will be made public to the user advisory board so you can all see it. It's not like we're trying to hide anything. I want this to be very public for everybody to consume. I'm going to sit down with Day Wireless and maybe some other vendors to see what this pricing looks like for replacement of some of these parts. Once I have an idea of what this invoicing looks like, I want to bring to you guys a plan and say, this is how much money it's going to cost to fix this. I want Day Wireless to come in. I'd love an independent person to come in too, just share their opinions on what kind of a buyout you guys are going to get from that cost of money. Because I only have a limited amount of funds, right? So I want to make sure that you guys are well aware when we have this next conversation of what this radio work looks like, what you're going to get out of it. And then once you guys make a recommendation to me, I go to the board and say the advisory committee has recommended this. I support this recommendation. Will you release this amount of funding? And we can start right away. Now, when I say right away, they're still, of course, ordering getting the contractors lined up to start the stuff getting here. So it's not like it's going to happen the day after I can get this money released. But no, and the board would have to approve it. I don't think the board would have any reason not to approve the spending, as long as I have a good plan for what it looks like going forth as far as our savings is concerned. But I don't think there's any flavor to slow this process down. But again, it's stabilizing a system, and it's only a chunk, depending on how big this report is. It may be a very small chunk that I'm actually able to stabilize with what I got available to me right now. That's just the honest answer. So
When you went to your board for this project, did you explain to them that what your entire plan is? Not, let's just see what it is, but you explained to them, like, once we see what's going on, then I'd like to come back to you guys and say.
I've had conversations with the board. This is what the outlook of this project is going to look like. That we have the advisory board for that purpose, to approve that spend, to make a recommendation to approve that spending. The board's been advised that we'll have reports, we'll know what we're looking at and what it's going to cost us to do the level of work. So they're aware that that's where we're, once I get the report back, I want to build a plan and start spending money. I mean, it's well aware to me, and you guys are all agreeing in this, that yes, this has been taking way too long to get any forward movement on it. But again, I'm limited on how much I can do with what I have right now. But
Chief Marks?
So here's the question for the room, and you specifically. There was litigation about this group in particular, about the advisory committee and how it stands and what its makeup is. Can we get any information on, is that litigation still pending? Is it concluded? Is this group just sitting here without being able to do anything in the first place because of that litigation?
the decision that we've received now, it is still open for appeal, but the decision we did get says that this board is set up the way it is legally able to.
Okay.
Do we know if there's going to be an appeal? I have no idea. I can't speak to that. I haven't heard of any yet, but
Your board is fully aware of the impending and upon us issues that we're facing with our radio system.
I do believe they're well aware of what the system looks like. They've heard testimony from several different people at several different meetings of what this, the end of life, past shelf life, the cost of repairs. We're going to eBay to buy our parts in some cases. I do have a limited amount of spares sitting in the back room that were donated from Clatsop County, which, well, I was at Clatsop County, we bought off of Clackamas County. So it is older equipment. We have been made aware that WCN Washington County does have some parts sitting on their shelves that some are even new in the box that have never been touched that we could purchase off of them at a reduced price. But that's case by case basis and what the cost value is negotiated between us and Washington County.
Sure.
And I just want to make it clear, this is not something I'm pushing forward because I want to power grab. I just want to get a radio system functioning so all of us are safer when we're out there doing our job.
I understand this, and I'm not gonna throw your predecessor under the bus. And I think because we were just as much a part of that too, but I believe if we were to go back 2 or 3 or 4 years, and I was a part of this group then too, is that I think we had our focus on more or less at some point abandoning this radio system and switching over to a 800, 700, 800 system. And we kind of put our focus on that versus, we'll say, well, this radio system, we don't want to put more money into it because we're going to upgrade. And I think we lost focus because of that effort we're on. Now that we're in a place where we realize that's simply not a reasonable possibility next half decade or decade or time, I firmly believe that what we're doing is the right thing by getting our current radio system back up and running as best as possible. But I think that's kind of the onus of why this happened, why the radio system was neglected, is because we had our eyes on another ball.
I don't know if I agree with that. From the Scappoose Fire District's perspective, the reason why nothing moved forward is because the 911 district got sued by an individual. And that lawsuit prevented the 911 district from moving forward with purchasing equipment, which was actually going to start us on the process of jumping on board with an 800 megahertz system. In case people forgot, that 800 megahertz system, while it was referenced as, sole source, we were buying used equipment, or going to buy used equipment from Clackamas County. They had excess equipment, it was sitting there, and that was going to be sort of the baseline to get us into the fancy radio system. Now, in our fire district's opinion, we thought that was probably way too much to take on in terms of expense, but that's what this body decided back in January of 2023. In case everyone forgot, we had a unanimous decision by the advisory committee to move forward with the purchase and path of replacing the radio system. So the district got sued, and that's why nothing happened.
And that may be, I'm not going to argue with that because I don't recall that far back. Much stuff going on in my head. What I'm trying to do is draw a line in the sand and say, what happened in the past, happened in the past. Let's move forward. Let's find a direction that we can all agree with and move forward. That's my whole focus here. So.
And I would just like to say from my standpoint as executive director, and I think I can speak to the board also on this, that we're all ready to move forward, whatever forward looks like, whatever that picture is. Living in the past is not doing us any good. But also, we all know that some of that past also is going to stick in people's memories of how things happened. But I will say that I am firmly in agreement that moving forward is the right path. Hanging in the past is not doing anybody any good. But it definitely does. I mean, so you guys have been here a lot longer than I have, and some of you have fought a lot harder for this in the amount of time that I've been here. But I would like to say that whatever the forward looks like is where I would like to spend my time looking to the forward. I don't want to live in my predecessors before that, past board, whoever. That's not where I want to live. And being partly because I wasn't here for most of it, I don't have the same feelings towards that past that you guys all do. So, but the future is where I want to look at and where I'm aimed. Whatever that future looks like of this radio system, whether it's still owned by the district, owned by somebody else, owned by a group, regardless, it's the future. It's the future steps that we're taking. I will say from my perspective, I'm not necessarily totally sold on the idea this is the right time for this movement. But I do think for the future of the county, at some point, whether now or in the future, this is a process that we need to really sit down and think about as a group and have a really long, drawn out conversation, whether that starts today or starts next year or whatever. I just see the ownership of all the user agencies in this county having their own ownership of this system and having an equal say is key. But the advisory committee should also be that same pathway. So that's just the two sides of that to think about, whether it's the advisory committee or another body. It is really the same thing. The idea is for us together collaboratively to push this project in the right direction. Should it be solely owned? I'm not sold on that. Should it be solely owned by me or anybody else in this room? I'm not really sold on that either. So whatever it is, though, we need to figure out what future looks like, and we need to come to a collaborative agreement. This is the future, and set our feet that this is the future and move forward in this direction as one entity. Because as I go out looking for additional funding or whoever that other entity is, we're all going to have to agree on what that path looks like to increase our successes for that additional funding. Whether it be under the district, under another entity, under the work group, whatever, we all are going to have to be in agreement that this is the right direction and the right step to take. 50% of us is not going to work. So I'm sorry. I guess you should be pointing at Joe and telling him.
Go ahead, Joe. I'm excited.
Thank you. So my perspective, like Chief Pritchard said, years ago, we knew there was issues with the radio system. We were working towards resolution. It seemed like we had a path. It stalled out. We've had a bumpy road for a while. And recently, it seems like we're back on track to start making progress. Just being handed this IGA at the beginning of this meeting and kind of thumbing through it real quick. And I know you said it was a draft, but it does say about the components of the radio system being owned by the county and run by the sheriff's office. Right? That's what it says. And right off the get-go, that says to me, okay, that's one more level away from equal voices in this room. It seems like the sheriff's office then would have a little more pull in it. And at this point in the game, it just seems like a sidestep. And I'm curious, I mean, as to why now? Is this necessary? We called a special meeting. Would this not be pertinent to come up in our normal business meeting? It seems like it was imperative that we get together right now. Is there a rush on this?
The reason I chose to get together now was because this all kind of happened fairly quickly. And with the district going out for a bond, I think this is important to either move forward with or not before they, not a bond, but a levy, before that hits the ballot.
So I guess my question would be, does it make a difference of the needs of this county with the radio system, whether it's this IGA or what we currently operate under? I think the need is still there.
Yeah, but if you look at historically, right, historically, the board has been a barrier to getting this radio system fixed. So going forward, what this would do, and I don't care if it's ran by the CRFR, I don't care if it's ran by SCAPUS, I don't care who owns it. What I'm trying to do is figure out a way that we can cut some of the bureaucracy and move forward quicker.
Okay, so I guess I'm not seeing it when you say board, the 911 board?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I guess I'm not seeing them as stalling or not moving quickly. I see roadblocks that got put up. That's what I see.
That's been in the recent past though, correct?
In the last 5 years or whatever
I
it
think
is.
you said 23, 22, 23.
3, 5 years.
23 was, January of 23 was when we all made the decision to move forward.
But this has been a problem since I came back to the county in 2010. And we're still having these same conversations that we've been having for 15 years. So that's it. I mean, that's really my driving force was we had a very good, I felt productive conversation 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And I thought it was important to come to this group and at least get this conversation started.
I appreciate that, if I may still. No, I appreciate it. A comment I've always said as a fire chief, and I think you all agree, I'm not doing my job if I don't look at all avenues to help my district or my people. And I see this as that. That's great. It came off as like, oh, we need to hurry up with this. And that kind of made me wonder, what do we do?
If this was sorry to interrupt, but if this was a hurry up thing, then I would be asking for a vote today. This is purely just an informational talk, so we can all get our voices heard. We can, whether this is an IGA that's perfect or whether it's one that just goes in the garbage. I don't have the answer to that.
But I'm also seeing this document tied to the levy.
Yes-ish, because part of the levy, if everything was agreed upon, would continue to go towards the radio system maintenance.
Okay, so then my perspective is the levy's needed to go to radio system maintenance in this aspect, and it's currently needed to go to radio system maintenance. So no matter what we do, we all agree we need that levy.
That's why we said, or agreed last
Just want to
meeting.
make sure we're still on point.
Sorry.
I call it.
No, that's fine. I want to make sure everybody's heard. So, I'll be honest, I'm just gonna throw the big rock in the pond. This has been going on, Chief or Sheriff, for a long time, right? I get that. I was gonna ask Jeremy how many lawsuits have we had against 911 that has slowed this process down over the time. We all took oath. We're all sworn officers, you're sworn law enforcement, we're sworn fire to protect and defend the folks of Columbia County. We have not really come together. The fire side has. I mean, we rarely interact with you guys, right? But ultimately, we can't operate without you, and you can't really operate without us. Correct. And so, coming forward with a plan, I agree we have to support the levy. We have to, all of us do. And I would love to see it be supported universally across the entire county, and I'm not talking about just our police and fire agencies, but others as well, because I feel like we got a gun held to our heads. That's what I feel like when I look at it. The IGA is not terrible, but ultimately I'm aware of other counties and other places I've worked where the sheriff or a designee has been in charge of the radio system and fire's been overlooked. And I know we can put all sorts of verbiage in here that it's gonna be hunky-dory. But clearly this one even says the sheriff's knowledgeable designee. So that, and after reading it, it sounds like they'll come and tell us what we're going to do. And if the sheriff decides he likes our suggestion or our concern, and I mean, and Sheriff Pix, I'm not pointing at you.
You're good.
Whoever is there in that position gets to ultimately decide which way we go. And this needs to be a collaborative effort. I mean, if I had my way, instead of having the 5 members of the board, maybe the board is 1 member of every police and fire agency in the county.
I would love that.
And that would be, because I think everybody should have an equal voice. And so the problem is and I'm not trying to get rid of the board of directors either, but ultimately I would be more open to something than versus having a sole. I wouldn't want Columbia River to take it over. I honestly wouldn't want Columbia River to take it over either. Or any other agency. It's nice having 911 being a third party where I feel like I can come and speak my mind, and anybody else in this room can as well. And I feel at least like I'm heard. If we go to sole source, meaning one of our agencies, districts taking over, in the back of everybody's mind, I don't care how great we are together, is they're always going to take care of their guys first. I'm just saying that's I mean, in places I've worked, that's what I've seen, Sheriff.
I'm not taking anything personally, so you're good with speaking here.
So that, I mean, ultimately, sorry, sir, one second. The levy is necessary. Our folks in the community have to be able to call 911. Whether there's been conversation about dissolving 911 and making a new one, all that has a lot of pitfalls that I see. And it's very concerning to me that somebody's having a bad day, whether they need law enforcement or fire or EMS or both, and they can't get through because we're having fighting at some level. We've got to find a path forward. I agree with you, Sheriff. At the end of the day, if we all can't just take off our badges, our guns, and our fire axes, put them on the table, just have a frank conversation. That's what this committee should be for.
Exactly.
And we should be able to speak our mind. And no offense, and you can say I suck for all I care. I don't really care. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't. I mean, I got broad shoulders, so I don't worry about it. But at the end of the day, we should be able to call each other out, and we should be able to have that discussion and be able to. So sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No, I'm very patient, aren't I? Yeah. If I was on a secondary email, was this just distributed today?
Yes.
Okay. We're talking, I have no idea what you're talking about then.
Mm-hmm.
We have not gone through this. You guys are having high-level discussions about something that, half the people in the room have no idea what we're saying?
I just saw it today, sir.
Everyone just thought.
We saw it today.
That's what I'm trying to say is, I walked in the door, haven't had a chance to read it yet. Sergeant here's reading through it, and we're having discussions about something that, are the answers in this document? Should we review this document with our 2 hours, or
No,
just highlight this document?
This document is for reference.
Correct.
A reference for just this conversation. That's it.
I think the sheriff and I, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from both of our opinions as the 2 agencies that were involved in the initial conversation, we both sat back and went, what's the flavor for this? Is there any flavor for it? Is it worth having more discussion? Is it worth sending this off to legal, start getting legalese, start getting attorneys involved? We need to have a base conversation as a starting ground. Is this something we even need to continue to walk down the path and look at? If there is not a need, and you guys are at the point where you're ready to say, you know what, we're just not ready to talk about this yet, then we both know.
How can we have that conversation? We have not reviewed this, is my point. We haven't talked about this. You guys are talking about it, but you're not saying clearly what's going on in here. So that's what I'm trying to say is.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Before.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for all getting here. So reference that I requested a special meeting so that things are brought together in one spot, in accordance with public disclosure laws by the state of Oregon we have, but also so we're all on the same page and meetings aren't happening back. So that's, even though this may be the first look, this meeting was something I was kind of hoping forward to as well. For me, just for a point of clarification, who maintains the radio system? I just don't know. Who maintains the radio system now? What's your guys' maintenance plan?
We have a contract with Day Wireless, which includes yearly and quarterly maintenance. The preventive maintenance we're undergoing right now is the yearly, that historically has been an issue getting done because of concerns of what that means for downtime of sites. I know this was a big inconvenience for you guys over the last 3 weeks, but I was the one that pulled the plug and said, we've got to do it. I have to have it.
which is good.
It has to happen. And I think historically the concern was always the what ifs, having a site down with the system that's already kind of held together with duct tape and baling wire at times. We'll just put it that way. And so I was the one that pulled the plug. Matter of fact, Danielle wasn't even here when I agreed that we were doing this. And I called her up and said, hey, guess what? We're going to do this. And she went, I need some more time, which is why we pushed it back. Because I need this information one way or the other, whether it's me maintaining the system and buying parts, whether it's handing it off. I mean, even just in this basic contract language, it wouldn't be in any contract that I'd have to hand over a list of that equipment to whoever is taking it over. So regardless, we have to have it, and we don't have that right now. Historically, it has not been done, which is why I'm starting now the yearly. We're going to be doing this. Danelle and I are already talking about dates for next year, so we can get it scheduled out for you guys well in advance, so we're not surprising anybody what next year's look like, the dates we're looking at, and to get feedback from you guys about stuff you know that might be coming next year at a certain time frame. Of course, we'd love to do this during summer, but summer's not good for any of us. And so trying to beat the summer and the winter weather, where at the higher altitudes we can't get to the sites as easy or climb the towers, whatever they need to do. So that contract is with Day Wireless. Basically what they do is once we're going to get these preventive maintenance done quarterly, they come to me and say, all the frequencies are in spec. They do a very kind of low level preventive maintenance look. Then once a year, they do the big full shot, check all the wires, antennas, and it should have been being done for a long time, and it just hasn't. I honestly can't even tell you the last time it's been done because it's been so far out. So that's part of me taking over and starting fresh. I know this needs to happen. This needs to happen every year. And I would recommend wherever this group lies after this conversation, that whoever's doing it continue to do them once a year at least, if not twice a year. It just gets really expensive in the preventive maintenance contract if you're doing it more than once, because it's all part of the contract. So it's no additional cost to me to have these done. It's part of that contract that I already paid for. So that being said, it is our responsibility to get that information. It's our responsibility to ensure people are going out and installing that and doing those tests. It's our responsibility to make sure we're purchasing and installing the right equipment that's for the sites. We rely on our knowledgeable partners like Day Wireless and Ron Polaconi, who most of you heard that name, has been great just being a third party from the outside, offering some advice here and there as I navigate this antiquated system and what this looks like going forth. So.
Thank you, Jeremy. And just real quick question for you, Sheriff. Is there any subscription fees in this IG? Because I've never seen this before.
No. And I will take the onus on not sending this out. I actually sent a copy of this to Jeremy a couple weeks ago. I thought he was going to get me a different revision that we were going to send out to the group, but it didn't happen. So I printed it out right before I came. Right after.
No, I actually agree with it being distributed here, but it should be gone through because there is a section, what I briefly read, that says there are user fees if the group votes to approve it. So saying just no is not a valid answer. I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
I don't recall seeing that.
But
But
it says
if it's in here, then that's right.
The group approves. That's the clarity I'm trying to say is we're having a high level discussion on something that nobody has had the time, well, Speedy here has, to read through and understand.
I will say, and sorry, I'm not going to cut you off, but under this payment, this would definitely be something that would take a lot more of a deeper conversation from all of us on what this payment model is looking like. So the rest of that contract's just kind of for you guys to regurgitate, but and to suck in and think about. But yes, the payment model is something that would have to be discussed because there's going to be a lot of attorneys and other people that are going to have to look at that and put their own weight in. That's something that even us as a group probably couldn't agree upon without our attorneys touching it first. So
100%.
The few voices I've heard that I like what is being said is CCOM is CCOM. Doesn't matter who's managing it, it needs to be its own building and running itself. But the way that it's being managed and partially financed, because the comment I heard is, even if the levies pass, it's not going to cover all of the expenses, especially if we start doing radio maintenance. The bulk what I've heard so far is all of the towers and equipment will be owned by this board if it becomes such as is. It'd be up to them to figure out the funding for that. That's what I thought I've heard said so far.
And I think the sheriff and I both talked about a little bit on that, is that the idea is there the flavor for us to spend our efforts and time into having this discussion, getting attorneys involved in that? If you guys are absolutely to the point where you guys are like, we don't want to talk about it, then we're done. We walk away.
I think it's a good conversation. I really do.
So that's all this was meant to be.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I agree with some of the sergeant's questions. I think for anyone in this room to think that there won't be user fees would be disingenuous to the groups that we represent. There's gonna have to be user fees. All we gotta do is look at least from the fire agency's perspective, sorry guys, I'm gonna speak on your behalf here, but when we look at our permanent tax rate and what's happened with the cost of living and the cost of doing business, almost every government entity in the county has had to go to some sort of levy or other creative financing in order to make ends meet. So I think we all need to be well aware. User fees will happen at some point. Maybe not today, maybe not in 5 years, but they're gonna happen. I appreciate Chief Llewellyn for calling the meeting together because there is sort of one elephant in the room that I think needs to be discussed if we're going to collaboratively move forward, and that is all of these backroom conversations that are happening need to end. It is unprofessional. It is not collaborative when a few people are getting some ideas and having weeks-long conversations about, you know, agreements and this idea and that idea. If we're supposed to work together, let's work together. There really should be no reason why we can't have conversations, regardless of what the idea is. But what some of us have seen lately is the opposite of that. And in the effort of moving forward, you know, based on Chief Llewellyn and the sheriff of, you know, really doing a lot of legwork behind the scenes, I hope we can all make a commitment to each other moving forward that there's no more backroom conversations. Everything needs to be communicated to everybody, because if we're hoping to make sure that everybody has a voice in the way this IGA is written, it's supposed to be everybody has a voice, then everybody needs to know every step of the process as it's happening.
I would support that, Chief Pritchard, that I agree that we should not be having conversations without the group together. Well, and that's law enforcement and fire. I think, you know, a lot of agencies have done board workshops, and I have no problem allocating an entire day. It would take an entire day, probably for all of us to sit down, throw some pizza on that back table, and if we're going to go through it, let's go through it. Because when we do stuff outside and come back, and I agree, Sergeant, that at the end of the day, I haven't looked at this. I'm just thumbing through it, and thumbing through it, I've already got some concerns. I'll be honest. I think there's a path forward. I think some of the stuff you have, your sheriff, is something we probably could work with. But at the end of the day, I struggle with the county doing anything with our radio system. We are one of 22 counties underwater. And so what happens when this money gets allocated and all of a sudden the county goes, nah, I don't feel like doing that. We're going to go ahead and add it to Parks Rec or something silly. Is how do you confirm, because it's not your budget, it's not my budget, right? It's the money that's allocated. And the county commissioners can and will have some say in this. It's worrisome for me because of what I've seen with the county in the past, and not the sheriff. I'm talking about the county itself. So
I got big shoulder. I'm good.
no, again, it's just it's concerning, and I mean, we're talking about this. I would agree with Chief that we need to have a larger meeting that's going to be longer than 2 hours. So, yes. Chief Richard.
I will tell you, speak to the financing part, right? So like for my jail, right? The money that comes in for the jail is by rule, the rollover account for the jail. The county can't touch that. So that's easy enough to figure out through orders, through agreements. I will say, as far as the secret meetings, right? This meeting was not to figure out what this was. This meeting was to figure out, get two people in one room and say, how can we move together? Let's drop all the stuff, all the crap. Is there a common path forward that we can find that you both agree with will be good for the county? And from that's where we came back and talked to this group. That not only did we find a common path, but they actually had a similar path in mind. And this is what that is. And that's why we're here today.
Chief. And then your next part.
One of, I think, to use the fire service as an example, when we talk about the county and trust for the county, I know, well, I should say, speaking on behalf of our board does not trust the county at all. our most recent experience with the county with regards to the ambulance service area and what they put all of us through and are still putting us through is something I never want to experience again. The ambulance service area process was managed under emergency management. It was given away to another entity within the county that had never done anything like this before. And boy, did they screw it up. They screwed it up so bad that they wanted to make us the first county in the state that would have to pay fees for any violation of the agreement. And it took hours and tons of conversations with us, with attorneys, with county commissioners who were getting bad information about this is not the way to make this process happen. We're going on, what, 2 years now? Maybe longer?
At least 2 years.
There were some external influences to that process that were completely unnecessary. But that's the county. And we still don't have an agreement right now that the county promised us.
Can I clarify the county, please?
No, the county,
Levy County.
not you.
No, not the sheriff. No, no.
For one point of clarification now. Fees for violations for a fire-based EMS. Because as we all know, Multnomah County, Washington County, they have issued fees and fines for violations to the private ambulance companies. What Chief Pritchard is talking about is fire-based, public safety-based EMS. Nowhere across the state do they fine for violations in any public sector or private sector or public sector, correct?
Yeah. So, you know, I think taking more time to go through this IGA is imperative.
Exactly.
But there's still going to be the hairs on the back of my board's neck when it comes to entering into any sort of agreement with the county. Not, again, we're not calling out the sheriff, but the way this reads and the way we know how your budget and everything works, your budget is managed by the county. So there are enterprise funds. The enterprise funds can only be managed in a specific way. But the point is, the county still has control of everything. And, you know, no disrespect, you're the sheriff now, but what happens when a new sheriff comes in?
Correct.
For all of the chiefs in the room, I know you have these conversations every couple of years when you go through labor negotiations. And the labor groups, they always say, well, we like you as the chief, but we need to make sure the rules are set so that when you're not the chief, the next person that comes in isn't going to change things automatically. And there's a lot of truth to that. So just some points to ponder.
I will say my hairs on the back of my neck stand up when I talk about the county as well, so I share your concerns. So I was in the meeting, and the whole purpose of the meeting was to bring a CCOM board member and the director together to find out where they had common ground, if you will. Because here's the bottom line for me. This levy has got to pass in May. And if it doesn't pass in May, we're all in a world of hurt. And they got another shot at it in November. And if it doesn't pass in November, then we're all looking at spending a whole lot of money from our departments to keep him going. So the purpose was, how can we get somebody who's been very, very vocal and has spent their own money to put out mailers against the levy? And how can we find some common ground so that we can get this thing passed and get his support? I attended a work session where Jeremy came in and talked about CCOM and asked our city council to support the levy. And that board member came in right behind him and talked about all the things he hasn't done and all the failures of the past 12 years that have occurred with CCOM. To the point where city council not only did not support the levy, but they're now going to have a discussion about whether or not they support anybody coming to council for any funding options. So that
is truly the elephant in the room. And how do we support him and get this passed? And out of that conversation came what you're reading today. And I don't necessarily think that the sheriff is a great fan of it. I'm not a great fan of it. You're not a great fan of it. But how do we get this system through?
Well, we
How do we
don't
get
do
the
it by
levy?
appeasing one person.
Well, I agree that. I agree with that. But are you going to go out and, knock on the neighbor's doors?
No, I think we're on the same page. I'm just saying that what you just said, it sounds like we need to appease one person to get support.
Question for you.
So you're saying in that preliminary meeting you were in, the main person that opposes the levy was in that meeting with you?
Yes.
Correct. And the purpose of the meeting was not to shelter anything from anybody or have a private meeting or, a secret meeting. The purpose is, how do we get a board member and how do we get the director to communicate and be on the same page to support the same goal of getting the levy to pass?
I think maybe the challenge, and we don't need to relitigate, what's already happened, but yeah, never mind, I'll reserve my thoughts.
But, I am a straight up person and tell it like it is and call it like it is. And I know this, its levy has got to pass. We've got to make sure it passes.
So, Chief, to your point, we can't reserve our comments. If we can't have a conversation in this room, then this is dead now, and so will the levy be dead because of this. And again, reading through this, I think a longer, larger, bigger meeting, that it takes more time to go through this because, as Chief Brody pointed out, this is the sheriff or his knowledgeable designee. The sheriff will design the public safety radio system. That's what it says in section 6.3. So that individual or individuals, it says in 6.3, the sheriff will maintain and design the public safety radio system. So clearly, again, my board probably wouldn't sign this either or allow me to sign it because of a individual is going to decide. And it says we're supposed to have a voice. This committee, in my mind, this committee is the voice. This is the first time I think I've seen almost all law, but I think we're missing right here. Your PD's not here.
He's online.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so all law enforcement and every fire agency in the county's in here except Sobeys, and maybe Chris is online. I can't tell if Chris is online or not. So this is a great opportunity. I think there's a larger discussion that's going to take more time, and I think we can look through something like this. I think there's other discussions. I agree, sir, that without that levy, we are all in trouble. I've already seen the projections. I will have to lay off several people to pay for user fees. I don't have the funds for it. I mean, it's kind of hand to mouth in the fire service like it is with law enforcement. You guys have, if I get a grant, ooh, that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, our funds pay for our people and the equipment, and they go out. And I'm trying to keep patchwork stuff together to keep that, keep us afloat and keep doing the calls we're doing. So ultimately, gentlemen, ladies, we have to be able to talk.
Yes.
Right. Let her hair down. Sorry for all the guys who don't have hair. But let her. So I mean, we should be able to laugh. We should be able to have a discussion. I think it needs to be larger. I think there's a way to move forward. I 100% agree, Sheriff, that there's a way to move forward. But the levy's got to go through first, because without that, 911 will fail. And whether we try to come up, someone or a group tries to come up with another system, our citizens are ones that are going to suffer. And we can't have our citizens suffering. That our job, all of us in this room, is to provide services for our members here. Sheriff.
I will agree. We all need to not reserve comments and actually have a start conversation. That's why we're here. I'm not convinced that this is the best path forward to go. That's why I was talking with Jeremy about this, and that's why I wanted to come to you guys. And you guys get this. I'll send it all to you digitally, and provide feedback notes. If it sucks, it sucks. If it says scrap the whole thing, scrap the whole thing. I don't have any buy-in or onus in this. This was just a path forward that was potentially agreeable to at least the director and one of the board members.
And I'm willing to supply several other organizations around the state that have a similar model for you guys to look at, whatever that may be. Clackamas has got one, Washington County's got one, Klamath Falls has got one. They're all over the place. I get copies of those. I have copies of all of them actually already that I can send out for everybody to view. if we want to have a further discussion at a meeting about this. But I will say, from the district standpoint, because we are discussing the radios, this really should be an advisory committee meeting so that we're above board and it's transparent. We're not hiding anything. It needs to be transparent to the community. But also, I do appreciate the fact that now I've had 2 of these meetings where I've had basically everybody in the room or virtually at one of these meetings. I really appreciate that because that's what we need going forward, regardless if we have this new radio work group, whatever. We need this advisory committee to participate so we all get the best we can out of this system as we move forward, whoever's carrying that torch. So just as a side note, I'm glad to see you're all here. I'm glad we're having this conversation. Wherever this conversation takes us, it takes us. But your guys' feedback and buy-in is huge for this district as part of the advisory committee. That's what this is here for, is for us to have these conversations. But I'm more than happy. If you guys want to have another meeting in a couple of weeks after people have had time to look at this, we can do that. We can schedule another special board meeting. I don't know how many you guys want to have. We've all got busy schedules. But it's definitely a conversation that I don't think should die, that there should be some feedback, whether it's now, whether it's a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever that looks like. I do believe this is a good move for the future of this kind of an organization, not necessarily under a certain entity. I'll just say that. Whatever that entity looks like, I do think the long-term future of this radio plan makes a lot of sense for us to share the costs of. But what does that mean for all of us? Not all of us can share the cost of the system, at least as we stand right now. And what does that future look like? I don't know. Maybe it is better for one organization to retain that until we can go somewhere, but none of our funding is super secure. None of our funding looks all that great in the next few years in the future. But as far as the system's concerned, the survivability of this system for you guys as the field and for us as the dispatch center relies on some sort of collaborative agreement on what this plan looks like going forward. I don't want to be here in 5 years and have this system fail because we can't find a way to make it happen. That's not a possible solution for any one of you guys, your officers, your firefighters, or the citizens of this community. We have to do the right thing, and now is the time to start talking about what that looks like in a constructive manner.
So we had several hands up, so I don't know who'd like to go first. Yes, there's 4 of you that had hands.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Chief Halsey, you had your hand up, so.
So what is the benefit of this radio system going under someone else? I don't see what the benefit is. I mean, Classified Fire doesn't have a ton of money. Scappoose, I mean, it sounds like, we're all fighting for the same thing. So what is the benefit of it going under the sheriff's office?
Like I said earlier, I don't care if it's the sheriff's office or not.
Or any entity, though. Well,
For me, it's a matter of, like I said, trying to cut that red tape and get things done in an efficient manner. Because at the end of the day, we could tell Jeremy, we want to do this 100%. He'd go to the board and they say, no, we're not going to do it. We'd say, we need to fix the radios. They can say, no, we're not going to do it. This provides, at least may provide an avenue, if it's written appropriately, to provide that quicker avenue to get things fixed. That's my perspective.
To your point, I think, stated here, what you not directly said, why I'm not saying this is, there will be no more 911 advisory, no more 911 board. It'll be the advisory board created. We won't be going to Jeremy and then to another board.
Correct.
So that's why it'll be a faster, quicker way to get things done.
Just to say, the advisory committee has to exist. It's legislative required under a special.
The other one does?
This advisory committee has to exist, regardless of the purpose of
Let me phrase this better. I want to see how long you hold your hand up. This document says this advisory board will be the only board for the future CCOM. And then based on the conversations here, things will move forward. There won't be the other board that Jeremy has to take the decisions to. And that's why you keep saying, oh, save bureaucracy, right?
Yes, sir.
But I'll counter that. And the reason I say I counter that is it's still going to have to go to a board. It's still going to have to go to the Board of Commissioners, who control the money for the county and who has that legal authority for it.
So I was removing the controlling entity in my
Well,
state.
but the controlling entity is still there.
Yeah.
The Board of Commissioners of the county, because it is a county-owned system. So if they're going to spend money on it, it has to go through them.
And if there's thing we know, the county commissioners, they can never meet unless they're in a public meeting.
Well, I'm just saying, that's the beauty of CCOM being its own entity, is we,
Okay.
go ahead, sir, sorry.
Just so I can speak to that point real quick. I'll get a trail call on you. I just want to answer that real quick. The one thing I have at my disposal is I can and have talked to each commissioner individually, saying, this is what I plan to do. Do you support it? Do you agree to it? If I get the yes, I have the authority to sign the paper. So it's going to be much quicker than having to wait for the next board meeting or having to call a special meeting. I can get that done in an afternoon.
So, out of curiosity, maybe I'm wrong. I know, Greg, you want to say something. It's not a straw poll. So if I talk to individuals and they make a vote, they didn't have a meeting, but I went and got all three of them, direct somebody. That's, I'm asking is I don't know. I will.
Essentially that you can call it a straw poll. But I can get that essentially in writing through via an email saying, I agree to this, I agree to this, I don't agree to this.
But
There's two of the three.
That's not a legal way to do it.
Yeah.
No, but then yes and no, it's skirting the issue.
It's not skirting the issue.
So what you do then is the
Time, guys.
at that point, then it goes on their consent agenda for that week. So.
Brody's been waiting too, so Brody.
Couple quick things. I appreciate you reminding everybody that, we should just speak our minds. I see a framework of something that could work. I don't necessarily know if going to the sheriff's office is the right way to go about it.
I'm good with that.
But, that being said, there's some things here that are good, that need to be further explored. What it looks like in the end, I don't see it as it's proposed right now. But I do kind of have to call something out that sort of dovetails onto a statement you made earlier, Mr. Treat, and that was, we're trying to appease one person. There is 200 plus years of experience in this room. And we're talking about appeasing one person, as opposed to taking that 200 years of experience and talking about how we're going to make this radio system better. And I'm really perplexed and confused on that. And I hope moving forward that we see this level of participation, because I think we would be more successful had we had more participation from the member entities over the last 3 years at these meetings, which if you go back and look at the meeting minutes, there was like a year where people just didn't show up. So if we're going to be successful, we need to do that.
Greg?
I got a question, just reading this, and I too have found some things that have me concerned, but was this written by county council? Was that? No, okay.
County council wrote it, it would probably be at least 20 pages. This is literally just some things on paper to get the conversation flowing, is what this is. There's nothing legal, nothing binding, nothing, there are things in here that I still have issues with.
Has the county council office seen this?
No, I kind of talked to her about it.
Okay.
There are still things in here that I have issues with, but like I said, this was essentially a free-flowing idea. And that's why I sent it to Jeremy, get some free-flowing ideas from him, and that's when I was going to send it out to the rest of the group. But the meeting popped up and I lost track of time, and I didn't get anything back from Jeremy.
Yeah.
So
I've been sidetracked, sorry.
I expect you guys to have a lot of revisions and a lot of changes and a lot of concerns. I expect that. That's the only way we find a workable project, no matter what that looks like. Or we just say, you know what, we're happy with what it is and we don't need this. I'm fine with that too, but we need to move forward somehow.
Sure.
I appreciate the guys that brought us to this table. I appreciate the people's determination to see something through. This discussion has been needed for a long time. I've been on the comms here since '91. And when I came back in 2019, well, my 7 years, Jefferson County came back, things were in disarray in 2019. And then 23, I started going to meetings for the tower repair stuff, and nobody was participating. Legal representation, different people, but nobody's showing up. And although it took a backdoor meeting, I don't care. We are here now. And as somebody said, let's not worry about the past. How do we move forward? If this is a framework to move forward, let's use it. It really is time to get something done. We all talk about being sworn and protecting the public. The lack of participation shows, priorities. We are all busy. We all have families and lives and stuff going on in our lives, but somehow we got to make this work for the people that we serve in this community.
I just echo, I agree with what Ron just said. If it takes this and people if people are pissed off about it, to get us all in the room, then it served its purpose.
Chief Mark.
There's another good way to do it. Would be kind of the model that Washington County is based off of. Okay, if you're talking about an IGA, okay, have the public safety agencies sign into that IGA, and we own the system. The county doesn't own the system. Scottsdale Police doesn't. Vernonia doesn't. We don't. The users own the system, and that would be a way to do it. That way, we don't have to have that special meeting of you doing a straw poll with the commissioners to find out if you can do it.
Yeah.
We have this meeting and have this representation to be able to say if things are going to move forward or not with it.
I like that. I like that.
You'll be presenting at the next meeting, I presume?
I can do whatever. If I need to, I'd be more than happy to. That's how Washington County WACA was created, is their users, each agency has one of their or is sitting on the seat of their board of directors.
Yes.
And that's how it's ran.
Okay. How do they fund that? Tax levy?
They fund theirs through user fees. But if you're talking about stealing money from Columbia County 911 or Columbia 911 Communications District to fund this and maintenance, that could be the funding mechanism of it.
Yeah, well, not stealing, we're reallocating. Nobody stealing around the cops. So, thank you, Chief Marks. That was the same point I was going to bring up. Maybe not as eloquent. I didn't know about that about WACA, but my thought was that's the direction would be if every district, law enforcement, fire district had a member sitting on there, and whoever it is, and they can come and go as we retire out or get replaced. But ultimately, that would be the system versus having one of us. Because if we're all there, and it still takes a majority of a vote, which means, half, a third of the cops and 2/3 of the fire decide that's what we're gonna do, or 2/3 of the cops and a third of the fire, that makes more sense to me. And I think I agree, Sergeant, that there's a larger conversation, and I think it can. I think that's something that we can look forward to. And I'm more than happy to have another meeting one where we can sit down and you guys can take your bulletproof jackets off, right? And I'll bring guns.
Lights off.
Guns coming though. Yeah. But ultimately that's it. We need to be able to have a conversation that it isn't us versus them. We're all in this together, right? None of us are strong enough or large enough in this county to operate independently. We need each other to make this work. God forbid, a big enough event of whatever it's a police event or a fire event, I'm going to need law enforcement there. You're going to need us there for a police event. So ultimately that's where we're at. And I just want those guys, I'm going to speak from the heart. I think there's a way forward, and I agree. And I think we can find it. This is not exactly it, but there's parts of it that possibly could be molded into something that like Chief Marks was talking about. So I'm excited about that because I think we do need to move forward. 100%. We all have been saying this for years. So,
So I guess what I want to know is, after I agree with everything you said, Josh, I do. I think that would be the best path for this. But it's not a vote, but is there enough flavor in the room for me to start modeling this after that kind of a language?
I think after conversations with Chief Pritchard, I think that's the best way to go, right?
I concur.
Okay. And because
Again, I'm voting.
we're not voting.
I'm just saying
that gives
Chief Marks. So.
everybody, we have 5 police agencies, we have 5 fire agencies, and we have the director of Columbia 911 Communications District on there as well. So we have 11 members so that there's not a stalemate in anything, right? And that way everybody's equally represented. Everybody owns the system. We're not having to hold to CCOM and their board of directors for the things that we all know need to be fixed. I know they know it needs to be fixed as well, but there are issues, and we need to find out a way to move forward with this. if the one person is okay with it and we move forward with that and we can get his support to move forward and have the levy get pushed through, hey, let's do it.
So I wanted to dovetail into that. I think, number one, and again, we're not voting, every agency in this county needs to support the 911 levy. And I'm also not going to say Tyler is online, so I'm going to say Tyler. Tyler can be part of this as well, in my mind, as we move forward. He's knowledgeable. He does understand this stuff. And I'm not opposed to having him be, maybe sit in when we have these discussions. So he's there. I'm not going to, we all dance around it. But at the end of the day, we can move this forward. But the first things first, 911's levy has to pass. Our department supports it. Our board supports it. Our union supports it. We're going to, that's what we're going to do because it's the right thing to do for our citizens. And I think with what the discussion's going on here, I think there's a framework that we can make work. And I think if it's modeled more after Washington County, we could probably find a way forward. But first things first, in May, that's got to pass. That's all. That's just my 2 cents. So, sorry, Chief.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So after our last meeting, I did some research. This was completely on me, where there's certain things. What I didn't fully comprehend is that the advisory board is subject to the same type of laws that any type of councils, so for us too as well. So us technically on the clock for our organizations, we can't really either support or deny. So I just wanted to put that out there for us. We can support CCOM and our partners to find ways of finding funding and stuff like that, but it's just something that we can't. And this is Oregon Governance Commission and stuff like contact person.
And that was my intent. It wasn't. That was the way.
I know. I just wanted to
thank you,
clarify that for everybody too. This is state law and also Oregon Government Commission, so we want to make sure we're cognizant of that.
So I just want to make sure that I'm not wasting my time or Jeremy's time or the board's, this group's time if I start toying with this or Jeremy starts toying with this. This is something that we could potentially look at going forward, or is it just dead in the water, dead issue?
Do we, since it seems like people kind of like the Washington County's way of doing it, I can pull that information, I can pull that contract or documentation, I can reach out and I'm sure they'll send me anything they request. The sheriff and I, if people are comfortable with that, can start looking at that contract language, what that looks like, incorporating some of the way we do business into that. Create a draft form. We'll reschedule a meeting in a month, 30 days, something like that, where we can come back together, look at it again from the Washington County's model of contract and see, then we can have we'll try to get that out to you guys at least a week in advance so people can read it over, and then we can try to sit down and have another conversation. And I will also try to see if we can get a member of the board represented at the conversation, if nothing else, just to listen to what the conversation is, so that they're also involved in the conversation, as I have not been given direct authority to be able to have this conversation. So I would like to make sure that we have somebody in the room who has some authority to be able to say that. Again, I'm trying to drive a train and collect information. And I don't want to speak on behalf of my board, but I would say if this conversation is going to go forward, it'd be really beneficial to have somebody, the board, decide who they want their person to be to come and sit in on this meeting and have that conversation. So,
And real quick, I just want to, we're a committee, right? We make recommendations. We don't vote. We vote to make a recommendation that goes to Jeremy. Jeremy takes it to the board. So again, we've talked about it, we've danced around it, but ultimately at the end of the day, 911 has to continue to be funded. That's all I'm saying. So the statement I made was maybe not.
You're good. You're good.
No, I know, sir, but I want to make sure that it is without 911. None of us. I mean, I don't know how you guys are going to get a call. How we're going to get a call. Let us. We need some help. So anyway, go ahead, sir.
Larson's arm's going to get stuck in that
Yeah,
position.
I know. He's up.
Anyway, when you talked about working on this, I agree that a committee should be formed. I think that's a great idea. Usually a committee is 4. In this building, we talk about 1 law enforcement, 1 fire, 1 CCOM, and 1 board person. I think that's a good 4-person committee, but for just 2 people do it, it's not a balanced representation of this committee. So 1 law enforcement, 1 fire, your board member, and Jeremy would be great.
I think it's too, I don't think this is, it's what, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not a committee's thing. I think if we're able to put something together with our next meeting, then we form that committee and look further into it. This is just to get a basic, same thing as this, get a
draft to
ideas,
start.
throw it on paper.
Yeah.
Then we form the committee, then we move forward, or not.
I think we need more more visual time with this, with a new document before this though.
Yeah, like Jeremy said, we'll try to get it to you guys a week prior to the previous meeting. I will own this one. This was my poor communication.
So would you guys, I'm sure Mary Jo would be willing to send out a doodle poll to try to formulate dates about a month out that people would be available to put something together. That gives us a date for the next meeting. I'm sure you wouldn't mind, right, Mary Jo? And then we'll do that. That at least gives us a date to aim for. It gives us a date to pull the WACA model, get it out to you guys a week in advance so that everybody has a chance to formulate some notes and some opinions. And then we can have a deeper directed conversation at the next meeting. And if it gains traction at that point, we can certainly form a committee amongst individuals in this room to really do the deep dive, say equal representation from both sides. And then we can kind of go from there.
Greg?
I just need to re-explain to me, like I'm 5.
Point to this one.
Explain to me again how this Washington County model looks again. Are we forming a quasi-government oversight rather than the singular agency as proposed, but suggested by the sheriff? But so we would form a quasi-government oversight committee with 11 members. Who does the accounting for this? Who we have to hire people? I mean, would CCOM continue to do the accounting? How is this? It seems to me like we're creating another layer here, which I am not really thrilled about.
But quite honestly, by IGA, I know different agencies like Klamath Falls, they retained the job as the secretary and as the budget person, but it really could be delegated to anybody better than collecting fees and paying for a third party. But that's also an option. It really can come down to whatever that contract says under a 190 agreement. So
Under this 190, that levy money, 29 cents per thousand, would go to whatever entity we is created to fund the radio system.
That's something we have to look into because legally, I'm not sure that I can necessarily collect fees and automatically funnel it to somebody else tax-wise.
I think some of your questions will be answered better at the next meeting.
But I think that being said, I mean, as a user of the system, I can pay user fees, but just invoiced like any other corporation. But I would have to look into have the attorneys look into the actual tax law and what that looks like because I don't know legally. Not to mention ethically, if it's appropriate for me to go out and ask for the levy and then hand a check over to somebody else for the chunk of that money. I don't know this necessarily the right avenue for transparency and for the public either. So that would definitely have to be something we'd have to look into much closer on what that looks like.
I have one more comment, and that is all of this entire thing, no matter how this lands, is all dependent upon the passing of the levy.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that while we are free to, do whatever we want in terms of long-term planning and things like that, but I don't want us to be thinking we're putting all our eggs in one basket again because we might be spinning our wheels here. If this levy does not pass in May, then we are back to square one, and we're going to be. So would it behoove us to we're not in a big hurry to get any sort of IGA done here before the levy time, are we?
No, or may no.
So we don't have to charge real forward and quick on this thing. I think we need to take our time and think about this.
Besides the fact of the May levy, I would say brevity would probably be the enemy in this contract talk, just because by the time attorneys touch it, the legal people look at it, their chances of it being ready to rock and roll by May is pretty slim to none. I would be surprised if we're not looking at early next year.
Conversation is important in preparation.
Yeah.
And the few people are going to be looking at to present to us, the next time we talk about this, we'll really answer a lot more questions. We'll have a week to review it. We'll have a better conversation about it. And there's already ones who have to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to tell them I can talk and get cheat sheriff, so I'm tired. But there's already one out there to look at to reinvent the wheel. I mean, really, I think the next meeting is going to be a problem solving. So, all right.
Sure.
And from my perspective, there's no way this could get done by May. That would be, I think, a logistical impossibility. But if the worst thing happens and CCOM's levy fails in May, and we're having these conversations now, that potentially we could, as a user group owned radio system, go out for an operational levy in November.
But it's still 911 going out for the levy. No matter, you're gonna stamp, their name will be stamped to it.
Maybe. I guess it all depends upon how it's formulated.
We're not a special district, we're not a city, we're not a county. If this quasi-government organization, we can't go out and ask for levy funds. It has to be attached to somebody's name that money's then turned over. And 911 is still
Maybe. Yeah.
they're the ones asking for the money, and if we failed 3 times, and I mean, it's not gonna be good.
I just don't want to waste my time if the flavor isn't there for something like this, like what Jeremy talked about.
No,
That's my whole thing. I'm not looking forward to getting this done. I think we'd be hard pressed to get it done in 6 or 8 months. Because there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Yes, I just want to say, coming out from outside of Columbia County, not growing, I know there's a lot of past and relationships and stuff like that, but I just want to applaud us for looking what's best for everybody too as well, and taking a look at this too. And just want to say that I want us to have open minds as we go forward with this. How's modified way like that too for us. So that's just one of the biggest things. I think for me, I think there's some work needs to be done, but I think it's something to look at too, just to make sure. I think for all of us, how could do something with CCOMP too as well. So just want to make sure we all keep an open mind, just looking at it and see how we can modify for the best results.
Being the newest guy in the room, I will say I'm not a believer that any idea is a bad idea. I'm willing to look at anything that could potentially benefit the district, the citizens, the county as a whole. So for me, I'm doing my due diligence, opening up my ears, listening to what you guys have to say, and being willing to have a constructive conversation, even if it goes nowhere. But I think it's an important conversation. If nothing else, it brings us all to the table to have a conversation and maybe start mending some of that past.
I just want to take a second to thank you all for having this conversation.
You're still going for the grant, right?
We have that CIP funding that I'm still going to turn the application in for. I've been told by the aid to aim for a $1.5 to $3 million range. My plan at this point is to request to include in that project probably our dispatch consoles, as we know those are way past life, and then also the base station radios at all the towers would be my ask for that project, and that should put us right about the $3 million mark. And we could get all 3 million, we could get $1 million. I think Clatsop County asked for 2.5 or 3, and they got 1.3 out of it, but I'm willing to take any money I potentially can get out of it to fix some stuff. So that also being said, one of the carrots that I will dangle for them in that application is the potential of having some money as a match. I'm going to have to sit and look at what that cost looks like and how much I have and how much I can offer up as a match. Is kind of a carrot to dangle, but I do intend to try to have something there to dangle for them. So, but Gustavo, who's the aide from Berkeley, felt pretty confident that this is a perfect project that they are always looking to fund between the 2 senators' offices. So we'll see where it goes. Put our best foot forward and go at it. I actually reached out to Sheriff Phillips over at Clatsop County yesterday just to see who they used and to see if I can get any other documentation they use so I can kind of model our steps in that same direction, hoping that since they got it, that would better our chances of getting something out of it as well. So
I can't tell if anybody have a hand up on.
Does anybody here know how WAC is funded?
WAC is funded through user fees.
It's like they have any other.
Yeah, I can't see it. It's a glare.
User fees.
They are not a taxing district, it's all user
All
fees.
user fees?
Yeah.
Do you know how the different agencies generate their contributions?
It is all based off of a formula that they use for how many radios. So it's per radio that it's funded off of.
Okay, so Tyler, looks like you have your hand up. Sorry, I can't see the glare.
I don't know.
Yeah, is it okay, Eric, if I talk real quick?
If you'd like to talk, yes, sir.
Okay, just real quick, I'm here as a taxpayer and a citizen. I'm not here as a board member, just to level set on that. One thing that I do want to point out is there is a key difference in between the way that WAC is structured and the way that the special district for Columbia 901 is structured. And so I would recommend just doing a little legal research first to figure out if I think you're going to have to form another special district or another organization to be able to do what you guys are proposing to do. I think the concept of putting it under an existing agency, whoever it is, makes it so that you don't have to form another agency and then have additional overhead expense. So that is, with our funding situation the way it is, especially the tax laws in Oregon, I don't think you'd want to form another organization that then has administrative overhead, because that's going to take away from your money to be able to actually do the improvements you want to do. But also just to level set on something also, the county commissioners are the ones that have to refer to the voters the formation of any additional special district. So anyway, all that to say, just I would recommend making sure that you don't have to form another legal entity to do what you're proposing to do. It may be that you can accomplish everything you're looking to do as far as the control and the different concerns that came up during this meeting by still placing it under a specific agency, but just having really good IGA terms that address all the concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
So Washington County Consolidated Communications Agency is not a special district. They are formed under an IGA, under a 190 agreement, just like this.
Yeah, good.
Tyler, you still have your hand up, or was that just?
Oh,
Yeah,
no, sorry, I forgot to put it down.
No
Sorry
problem.
about that.
Thank you. Any comments, questions?
You need a nomination to move forward with what they're wanting?
No, where this was, this discussion
Okay,
only.
thank
So
you.
Jeremy, again, this is a committee, so I'll make sure we all understand it's a committee. All we do is we can, when we do vote for stuff, it's an event, we make recommendations to Jeremy to take to the board. So this was just, there's no vote today. I think Jeremy's got enough information to talk about another meeting and allow time to work on some things and bring it back up. So, Chief?
Can I ask a question of Mr. Miller?
Sure. Tyler, you ready for a question?
Sure, I'm happy to answer it.
Okay, my question is, being privy to what's going on here and knowing or seeing some of the feelings that are coming out and understanding that we all really believe, this levy needs to go forward, needs to pass. And we know that you've been a major opposition to it. But seeing this, are you willing to change your stance and help support us? Or are you still? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought
That's
you were
okay.
done there. There was a pause. So I like the dialogue that you guys engaged in today, and I think we all have the main purpose in mind here, and that is to try to get the radio system fixed in the most efficient and financially responsible way. We all need to move forward with that mindset. The problem is that having watched this play out for over 10 years and these same conversations happening year after year and nothing ever happening, and then the district's hired 3 different consultants and paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then still they don't do anything. So I guess what I'm looking for is just a little bit more confidence that the taxpayer money is going to be used wisely and that we're actually going to move forward with a really good plan. So, if I could propose something, if I could be there and offer some comments during these meetings too, for your guys' consideration, fully understanding that, you are the advisory committee, but I'd like to be able to give some input. That could be a way forward. I'm just looking for a little bit more assurance that we're on the same page and that we're actually going to get things done this time and that we're not going to waste any more money.
No, and Tyler, I just reiterate what Chief Dudenski said. I think there's a framework listing here. There's a path moving forward. And honestly, this is the first time in a lot of years that I've seen all law enforcement here, all of the fire departments here. I think we know the can's gotten kicked down the road. And so that, I think, moving forward, and that's why I brought up about having you have at least be able to speak to us and when we have our meetings. But the support as a board member and as a city council member for Scappoose is huge for making sure that this levy passes. And in order to, because that's the first step, right? I still think there's a possibility. I think we'd have a meeting possibly in a month, whatever Jeremy can put together to do that. But in order that, we have to have unification and we have to have that support going out there that our citizens are first and foremost. I know you know that, Tyler. I'm not saying you don't. I just want to make sure that we are going forward together. This is the first time I feel at least confident that there's a chance that this could actually work. But step one is they got to make sure that 911's funded.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I appreciate the comments, Eric. And yeah, I mean, I'm open to some immediate conversations about that and what support would look like. I'm happy to give support if it looks like we're actually going to make progress and we're going to spend the funds wisely. Yeah, that's where I stand on it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions?
Sally's hands up.
Oh, sorry, I can't see it.
That's fine.
Whoever's got their hand up, I can't see it. It's got a glare, I can't.
Hi.
Hi.
My comment only is that while you're exploring these avenues for funding the radio system and ongoing operations, that it would be a good idea, I believe, to explore how the 911 district was formed and why, and the current structure, which is the elected board members from each zone in the county. The point was to represent that geographical area. But this body, the advisory committee, is also a vital part of a healthy 911 district. And you sitting here talking together is wonderful. That's the way an advisory committee is supposed to work in a 911 communications district. The board members only govern with the advice of the advisory committee. And to be perfectly honest, there have been many years where the advisory committee didn't understand that and didn't really participate. So the board, I think, was governing without that advice. Now you're moving forward in a very healthy model from my perspective, participating like this and in the role of advisory committee. It could be, and I think this is one of the things you should consider, that the current model might be the healthiest model going forward. And the kind of funding with the levy and so forth could be a way to avoid user fees in the future. Certainly the short term, this current levy would assure that you wouldn't have to pay user fees for the next 5 years if it were able to pass. But I only say when you're looking at different ways to go forward, be sure to include the current structure. It may be the healthiest format to go forward, as well as some of these other ways that 911 is organized around the state.
Very valid point, ma'am. Thank you. Other comments, questions?
I just want to thank you guys again. This is a great conversation. Great to see all your smiling faces. Great.
I will, Mary Jo will work on a doodle poll approximately 30 days out. We'll pull the Washington County stuff and we'll start looking at what that looks like. And we'll, just for the sake of it, we'll pull the others as well and just submit them all to you guys in different variations, the Kurt agreement, the stuff that varies a little bit, just so you can see how some of the other models are done. And then we can come back together and have a, Greg?
You invite somebody from Washington County to attend?
I can certainly reach out and see if we can get somebody. If that would be,
At the same time, I guess, what are we looking at a longer meeting, gentlemen? I mean, it's going to be more than 2 hours. So we're going to have to make sure we block out.
well, maybe this first step would be to look at the different models that we have available to us already. And then if we decide on a model that we think is going to work for us, then we can reach out to that specific agency, because we may decide that this model is appropriate or some variation of that. And then we can ask somebody to come out and speak specifically on that model.
Write down our
How it's
questions at that meeting for the person to actually speak to, not just
Yeah.
wait for the questions to
Yeah.
pop up.
Yeah. But I would not be opposed to having an expert from said model to come out and speak. I think that's a great idea.
Anything else, gentlemen? Chief?
If I can, for those in attendance on the board, just a reminder about, as we continue professional self-advisory committee, I think it's Department of Oregon Governance Corrections or Department of State has a form about public meetings laws, which I was very kind of ignorant in. But I can share that with the community for you guys to look at just so we all know what's going on and just make sure we're protected. There's certain things that we have to be aligned with too.
And we have already discussed at our normal advisory committee, we talked about this at the last meeting, that we would review the policies of what the bylaws for this committee also, so that everybody at this meeting is aware of what those bylaws are and where we stand. It's been a few years since those have been reviewed and updated, so it's probably a good time to have that conversation too while we're jumping into this conversation.
Professionalize it. Great meeting. Thank you. That's all I have.
You said you could email that out, link to
Yes,
everybody?
I gave a copy to Mr.
Can
Patzer.
we get a copy of the bylaws sent out as well, both those documents to review?
Yeah, and that's what we all know and what we can and cannot do in our officials, because it's not any particular person, the state's just very strict
Yeah,
about certain
that's the big thing is the endorsing.
levies while you're on duty in certain things.
Yeah. I would like to start on record that last night, or 2 nights ago, my board did endorse the levy. And I do also have a legislative advocacy policy that allows me to speak on behalf of the board for issues of public safety concerning us.
Any last comments?
Okay.
I think you get to bang your gavel.
All right. I get to bang the gavel. Okay, so obviously you guys see on here, the next quarterly is in April. Obviously, we're gonna have a meeting before that, so, and then we'll look forward to seeing the emails coming from Jeremy. So again, I really do appreciate the conversation, and it kind of loosened up there about halfway through, so it's nice. And that's the way it should be, and I appreciate everybody that attended today.
And thank you, everybody, again, for 2 meetings now where we've gotten a big turnout. I do really appreciate this because it provides me more firepower that I have to move forward and to go to my board and say, we had a 99-100% turnout, and this is what their suggestions are. It provides me a little more backbone when I go to them and say, this is what the recommendation is. So again, I appreciate all of you. I know we all have busy schedules. And this was a great meeting. Thanks again.
All right, meeting adjourned at 15:01.